Well, what do you say that we all let's talk shop, huh? Let's talk shock. Talk shock? Talk shop. There we go. Talky shoppy. Tax schla. Tax schulp. I had a terrible day, but I made it here, so that's something. Oh, sheeps, especially if you had a terrible day, thank you for finding the time to come and hang out with us. You know what? I know that you do art, and so now you can sit back and enjoy an MS Paint experience. I mean, Derek, you shouldn't talk about the new guy like that. Even if he has a bad attitude. An MS Paint adventure? Yep. Derek, we are at our shop, our oldie shoppy. We are going through something similar. So you have my commiseration, brother. Yes, Lazy Monkey, there is a list of commands down below. My eyes are ready. Well, oh sheeps, prepare your eyeballs for something even greater than the MS Paint that you see before you. Because if you think that this right here is some smexy storytelling, you ain't seen nothing yet. No, we don't want to save that. This we can recreate really easily. I want a new file. Don't save. All right, yesterday. Hey, Diadems, welcome, welcome. This is going up in the Louvre for sure, calling it now. Well, oh sheeps, I don't want to brag, but of course. And also, I'm the humblest person I know. Duh. Yesterday, I opened up this week's workshop with a challenge. Let's not, worry about genning up characters. Let's not worry about making a campaign right now. Let's make a campaign area. Let's form a sandbox, right? We're gonna choose a part of a world, and we are going to create it. We're gonna challenge ourselves to think differently. Not that you can't have a standard dwarven mountain or an elven forest, or halflings living in a quaint, temporal, arable farmland area. You can have that, and that's fine. I want to take it to another level and make something that is, if it's not high fantasy, it's certainly a very interesting set of circumstances. And this journey has led us into a naturally formed glacial maze, similar to the Underdark, that also has these eerie faces, kind of like the face on Mars kind of a thing. That's a wild magic zone, and so if you cast a spell with a verbal component, the wind will affect the spell, and you'll get a little bonus something or another that will occur here. And so do people live here? Maybe they do. I mean, people live in the Underdark, whether they want to or not. But I'm not worried about the populace yet. Because when we do get to the populace, we could maybe make some custom races. In fact, we already have a foundation for one of them. Oh, Redcap, one short. Oh, Ghost gotcha, huh? Yes, Lazy Monkey. I'll show you here real quick. So minus the areas that are filled in, right? Minus the areas that we filled in last night. This is a worksheet that I have been using on the channel for a good long while. And you know, there's a method to the madness? Is this 100%? This is how you should do it? Absolutely not. But I choose 2 terrain types, and we can do that randomly from the player's handbook. And the player's handbook, because both the ranger and the druid have mechanics for 8 different biomes that we can extrapolate more information from. But generally, I want to choose 2 biomes to merge together. Then we go to the Dungeon Master's Guide, and if we were making a settlement, kind of like what you see here, we'd go to page page 18 and roll a percentile to find out what kind of government is here. From there, and again, this is just my personal preference, I like having some interesting features to an area. And so not only do we have our natural features with our biomes, let's make 2 monuments, whether they're, you know, natural like the New Hampshire, well, it's collapsed now, but the Old Man in the Mountain, that was the granite face, something like that, or it's like the Mount Rushmore, where it is man-made mountain faces. So I choose 2 monuments and 1 weird locale, something a little supernatural. From there, again, if we're creating a settlement or if we're creating some kind of a region, we then make some dice rolls. Oh, I went too far, everyone. We use some dice rolls to figure out 2 different races. Again, this is arbitrary. And then we just fill it in dominant race, minority race. And then we roll a d20 for race relations, the ruler status, a notable trait. This place is known for its, and then there's a current calamity going on. And then usually most settlements have some kind of a prominent religious building, so I'll roll a d20 there, and then I roll 2 d20 to generate a tavern name, and another d20 to figure out what kind of a tavern it is. Fowland says, as chat boss, I feel I should point out that you all can never defeat me. Yeah, Lazy. A worksheet's a standardized starting point and everything builds out from there. And Lazy, so here, you know, we were talking about, all right, so because we didn't want to put in a populace, I don't want to think in terms of humans and gnomes and dragonborn. So we have a forest mountain. There's an intact obelisk etched with something, and an intact statue of a person or deity. The weird locale was a canyon containing, it says a dragon's graveyard, but again, we're using that as a prompt, as a starting point, like you pointed out, Lazy Monkey. And so over the course of the conversation, I believe it was Black Wolf that said, well, you know, what if it's not just a dragon's graveyard? What if everything in this canyon is gigantic? And so there's like birds and bats and mice and like everything is giant sized here. And that they're put on display in the canyon. And so it just got us thinking, all right, so there's something about this place that inherently just makes things bigger. If the adventurers come by here, after a certain point of time, maybe they'll be under the effect of the enlarge spell. And if they have kids here, then the kids will be born bigger, and then they'll get the effect of the enlarged spell until finally, you know, are they dragons or are they actually just kobolds that have kind of been like super evolved or super embiggened, to use Bright's spell take on enlarge reduce. And now looking back at the intact obelisk or the statue, someone at some point in time made a warning. If you enter this valley or this canyon of this forest mountain, it is trying to reach you, right? So the obelisk is etched with words and maybe even warning symbols. The intact statue is for for maybe if there's a race that doesn't have a written language, but they respond to a body language. So there's a generic humanoid going, like, stop, no. Or there's like a centaur going like this, or like, maybe for centauroids, this is their no-go. And so all of this is meant to be a warning of don't go here. Now, we've created no civilization, no new race, but we've created a fantastic location. You know, the forest could be a normal forest, but all the trees are gigante. You know, a pine tree is as tall as a redwood tree, right? The pine cones could could fall and knock you out like a coconut. The ferns are just like super enlarged. And it's like, level 4 in Super Mario 3. It's like Giant World. And so here, the mice can attack you like dogs or something along those lines. So it's very dangerous. Everything, maybe not necessarily primal, maybe they behave similarly because in scale, they're the same size. But if you're a newcomer entering here, imagine this. You are you're a big burly dragonborn. You got strength. You've got charisma, so you can swing a sword or cast a spell. And suddenly you encounter a mouse that's, CR2. And it's not a dire mouse that with like bones poking out and reinforced plates. It's a mouse. It's just as strong as you are. It's a whole new adventuring concept. Not necessarily a world tree, Fowlan. Carl Era, hello. I'm new to this game. How do I play? Carl Era, or if you want me to pronounce that differently, let me know. Dungeons and Dragons is exactly what you're witnessing here. It's a storytelling game. There are some dice involved. You just call you Carl? Gotcha. So Carl, it's a storytelling game. It's something that you are capable of doing. Congratulations, you're a human being. You can tell a story. We do use dice, and we go through some guidelines in a book. However, at the end of the day, it's you and some friends or family sitting at a table, I don't know, maybe eating, talking about some stuff on the side, and ultimately having the adventure that you want to play, and not one that's dictated to you in a book, like a novel, or that is pre-scripted like a video game. And if you have any other questions, let us know, because myself, or mods or not, there's plenty of us here who can help answer your questions. Lith, hey Lith, welcome. It's going very well. Now, right after this, Lazy Monkey, and the same concepts in general hold out across everything from D&D to yeah, exactly, Lazy Monkey. And Carl, thanks for the follow. Rightel, do not eat dice until you have the proper experience in the matter. The next one that we genned up, so we're like, okay, got it. Forest and swamp, a totem pole, okay, we can work with this. An intact obelisk with something, okay. A battlefield where lingering fog occasionally assumes humanoid forms. And so this got us thinking, maybe this is where we can make a race, but the race might be a part of part of the terrain. And we went through an entire exercise to now we've developed like this will-o-wisp race. And we had a history. We developed a culture around them and how they split and even had a civil war, all because of a couple random rolls on a table. But we let our imaginations run wild, and we have an awesome campaign setting. Like a partial of a setting and even a prompt for a race. Can I have a character on this journey? Yeah, if you're gonna sit down and play a role-playing game, of course you can, Carl. And so we now split, and we made we went through the whole exercise: race relations, ruler status, notable traits for the forest dwellers and for the swamp dwellers. And it turned out to be really, really good. And we did that with others. I'm not going to go over I'm not going to go over that with everything here, because we'll make this. Yes, my lord, how do I proceed? Well, if you want an interesting prompt, Carl, If you type in, actually here, let me give you some experience points to play with. Carl, type in !res please. REZPLZ. Res please. And this will randomly generate a character for you. Not points, just exclamation point. Exclamation point res please. REZPLZ. All right, so there you go, Carl. You are a male tiefling ranger. So congrats on that. Now from here, you know, you can go on some adventures in chat with prompts. You can talk with other people about, so what's a tiefling? Oh, there might be a global cooldown on the command, Lazy Monkey. So you can talk to other people. What does a ranger do? What does a tiefling do? Is there a difference between male and female? Are there more than just this?
Random as me, Captain. Also what are the costs for the other boxes? He might donate the difference.
Ah, okay. So, with 18, that is a full pull, all 4 figures on a Ravnica box, a Tomb of Annihilation box, or I don't have any Dungeon of the Mad Mage in just yet. So it's going to be one of those two. Otherwise, it's $22 if you want a full pull of Storm King's Thunder or Monster Menagerie 3. All right, so why don't we start sketching, right? We've primed our imaginations. I have a pre-stretched, double primed canvas ready to go. So we are channeling our Bob Ross. And all we have to do is believe. You know, let's create. Let's use these as let's use our documentation as a prompt. Male Tabaxi Rogue, meow. All right, so we are going to have a glacial area. We are going to have a forest mountain that's going to have this prominent canyon. And by the way, I'm doing this in MS Paint because I don't want anyone to feel like you have to have expensive art software or an art degree to do any of this. I'm using a standard mouse, and I'm using MS Paint, and you'll see what we're gonna get for it. Now I do have Wonder Draft, which is a really cool map making tool, and we can maybe refine some stuff there.
Hättest du die 18. Die extra Dollar ist there because I like multiples of 5.
Multiples of FUMF. Well, you have an excellent German accent. So it's 18, and then so if you're throwing the extra dollar to make it 23 out of 22, with your permission, I can add that extra dollar to my fundraising goal to go to San Diego at the end of September for TwitchCon. Do I have your permission to put that into the convention fund, or do you want to float that for another box, Redcap? I have your permission, then I shall do so. The convention amount is now $86.81. Thank you very much. So we have an Arctic region, right? Massive glaciers. We have this forest mountain that has an intact statue, has this canyon with a monster's graveyard. Nice to see 20 or so in here with crit roll going on. Yeah, and hey, I know crit roll is very popular, and for those of you, I mean, maybe some of you are dual boxing, and I absolutely forgive you for that, because I understand it's a popular show. But for all of you who are here during Critical Role, that means a lot to me. You're watching both? That's no problem. Redcap, do you have some time tonight? Do you need this box opened quickly, or can you wait until after I do some sketching here? Remember, Pinky's out. I'm a huge crit roll fan. I'm still here and I can wait as long as you need. I have nothing to do. All right, Redcap. Then just let me know if you want Monster Menagerie 3 or Storm King's Thunder. There it is. And we'll pop that box after we're done drawing. Hey, Shukan, welcome. I'll catch crit roll another time. Here, there's actually direct interaction, which is a benefit of a live view. Well, Lazy Monkey, yeah. As much as I can pay attention to y'all. You want an MM3? Oh, odd MM3, even it's Storm King. You roll a d6, it lands on a 1. The dice have spoken. You are meant to get a Monster Menagerie 3, Redcap. Yes, it is 22 for the full contents of an MM3. Oh, coffee. I appreciate that. All right, so we're going to draw. And Shukan, if you want to sponsor a box, that's perfectly fine. We're gonna draw. We're gonna start drawing on a map to do this, and then I can pull some boxes here when we take a little bit of a drawing break. Don't worry, everyone. Though I've done my artist warm-ups, and I have a very nice orthopedic mouse pad to help support my wrist when I'm drawing. That's right, stretches are important. See you all later. Endgame to see tomorrow. Oh, nice. English Mudkip, thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for questing in chat. That was really awesome of you. Yes, Lazy Monkey, I am properly hydrating currently. All right, so we have big glaciers. We have this canyon, and then we are going to this forest swamp area, and then we're going to a forest underdark area. And I think that this is going to give us. I'm getting almost kind of like a. Oh, I need to get to bed tonight. Always tonight was unforgiving at work, and I got a morning shift. Derek, rock on. Be well, my friend. Oh my goodness, Shukan. I'm definitely gonna have to bust into a new brick. I have 2 new bricks of MM3. So after the one that we open up for Redcap, we're gonna be busting open a lot of boxes for you, Shukan. Not ale, Carl. It's apple, like it's an apple beverage, like a powder mix, but no sugar, which means I can have a cookie later. Cause I mean, why load up on a beverage when you can have, you know, like a cookie or something? Yeah, oh whoa, indeed. So yeah, Shukan, if you're good to jam out for just a little bit and I'll draw, then we will spend some time popping open boxes like it's going out of style. So let's get going here. So when you're drawing a campaign map, it's important to, you know, you got to kind of map the. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not a traditional artist at all. The command to see what you are. There's not really a command for it, Shukan. You could be whatever you want, or you can randomly generate a race and class with exclamation point res please, REZPLZ. There you go, a female human sorcerer. All right. Kind of an Arctic area that is going to bleed into our mountain forest giant land. Or, I shouldn't say Arctic. I mean, this is glacier. Glacier. Giants. This is now going to go into the area where we apparently had a meteor strike. So this is going to be sort of like aberrant forest. And that's now going to lead to coastal mushrooms. And for this is going to be just sort of like a quick and dirty map. We're going to go and we can make the regions a lot more detailed a little later on. But right now, I want to fill this screen with color and land and interesting things. All right, so we have a coast. We'll kind of have this go off the map. Look, when it comes to this and you're like, I don't know, I gotta make a decision on something. Yeah, just make a decision. Just draw. Put something on your canvas, and I'm digital or otherwise, and you'll be good. So here I'm kind of making, I don't know, some beach or a beach like coastal area. You know, we can be a little fast and loose with our interpretation of our maps. Pardon me. Now, what's going to be interesting is this isn't just going to be open water or coast per se, because we're discussing making something like a mangrove forest, which exists in the water, but instead have it be something like mushrooms. And on top of that, desalinating mushrooms that are creating almost like one side of the water is going to be salt water, and then it's going to be brackish inside the forest, and on the other side it's going to be relatively clean filtered water from these desalinating mushrooms that are growing like a mangrove forest on the coast. You got it? All right, Diadems, are you... Okay, yeah, Diadems, you're out there to give out points. Thank you very much. Desalinating, that's the first time I heard that word. I know what it means, but that's cool. Yeah, so again, I want to come up with some fantastic ideas, right? And so really, we can even go through here And let's make the landmass first, and then we'll put this kind of floating forest of fungi out there.
Another M3. The rest is for your fundraiser. Thanks for the engaging content.
Oh, hey, thank you. Oh, snap. That's going to put me at 9481. Oh, thank you so much. That means a ton to me. Desalination myconid colonists. I do want to create or place very interesting races and or monsters in these areas, Lazy Monkey. Matter, remember, some pufferfish can live in brackish water. When we talk about populating these areas, please remind me. All right, so we have our coast, and our forest is going to kind of bleed over into this a little bit. Now, right before that, too, we have that's forest underdark, and underdark is taken because a mangrove forest is like a tangle, like you can go kayaking through it, and the sun can almost be blotted out at times. And so we have this vast maze where you don't have to just worry about things from above, but even to the side and below, because what lurks in these waters? What strange life? Because that was the prompt that we took from our random generation. So now we come up to this forest and swamp area here. And the forest and swamp, if this is going to end up turning into, maybe through, like, this is some kind of a barrier when we can go through and recolor it. But now we have kind of a little bit, and remember, water is very lazy. Water will always seek its own level and will lie in all indentations. And so when you're making water like this, you're telling a tale about the makeup of the area, about the hills and the dales and the valleys and all of this, right? So we have this, and then for a swamp, it doesn't necessarily flow. And so something is going to have to happen that is causing the water to become a lot more stagnant and flow moving. Well, when we were making the area of the forest and swamp, we talked about there being an impact crater of some kind because there was a falling star. And so what we can do is, while there's this fresh water that exists all around, we can take whatever, we'll make like a squiggly. Right, here's like a ridge of a crater. And it can throw out some other, some other chunks here and there. And there was, there's not just the mound where this thing sort of like scooted along, right? Because if the impact of the site was actually here.
Also, damn it. I hate that you weren't at 100 yet. He fixed it. Sorry I keep interrupting you. I'm done for now. No,
you're fine. You look, any of you can ask questions about D&D. I mean, I'm not going to turn down such kindness as well, but thank you very much for that. That is beyond generous. But no, you can ask questions, have fun, help each other out too. So in the story that we were telling with this entire culture made up of random dice rolls, we had a meteor strike, right? And then it kind of bounced and it skidded, kind of pushing up this ridge here. And this is what created the swamp and the people who adapted in the area here. Now it's supposed to be orange. So there's going to be something more, maybe a little bit more jagged. And it's going to flare out from here. And so the mountains are going to tell a story. If you're adventuring through here and I handed you a map, you should notice that this is more circular, maybe more natural looking, and this looks completely like blown out and jagged, because it is. The land tells a story. If you can read the land, look, I don't know if any of you took a geology 101 or geography 101 or whatever. If not, do so. And as a DM, this will unlock so many tools for you. But the land will tell you a story of what happened, the placement of things, why and how things developed the way that they did. Do the people in the area worship the meteor? Do they use the meteor to make mystical tools? Yes. One half of this civilization worships it. The other is godless and sees it as more of like a natural force than as a divine thing. Oh, thank you, Redcap. So if we have our meteor strike here, that's violent. That is, it slams down, and then it goes, and then it rolls, pushing up, boop, 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 pushing up this ridge here. And so this is also going to create, you know, some more like, you got to make the noises, right? You have to make, Bob Ross will tell you this too, but it honestly works. You know, if you're like, crack a boom, gotcha. No, I didn't. Bang, bang. Gotta go. Lunch is over. All right, Diadems, thank you for hanging out here. Everyone, because I'm doing the mapping, hold off right now on doing adventures, because I can't hand out experience points if myself until my mods come back. And Fowlan, I think that can very much be a part of that. Because if this meteor affected these people who came to explore and turned them into a part of the land as like living mists or will-o-wisps, very much it could affect this this giant area. And in fact, the giant area could even be like if we wanted to scoot some of this back for the sake of storytelling. Because, you know what? We haven't presented this to our players yet. Whoop. Didn't want to do that. Anything can be anything. We're going to have our jagged mountains kind of go off the map here. And we can go back and detail it. We just want a rough idea. Just draw. Just draw. That's all you have to do, right? Prime yourself. Because that next area was mountains and forest, you know, and then we had forest and swamp, and we'll get to the why. If this thing bounced, this is going to create a very interesting valley where it rolled, right? And so maybe coming off of this mountain, we almost have something like a half tube, right? A very weird looking valley where this thing just rolled and rolled until it came to a stop. And so maybe the meteor kind of ends up being like the chunk right over here or something. And so this land is telling a story. Something really big just kind of came through here. And if it was kind of implanting this heat in magic or radiation or whatever you want to call it as a DM, this could be our valley right here. Called the washboard, yeah. And then up this way, we came up with Arctic and Underdark. And so what happens here as well is there is a really big glacier that's up this way. Don't be afraid to have stuff go off the map and come back. And the glacier at points might be held back by chunks of mountain. You know, whether it's part of the Kersplui here, or just other things that have occurred, or because of the winds the way that they are. This is just the end. Like, this is actually the entrance, because when you say Underdark, I mean, this is a vast series of caverns and tunnels, but we're just indicating that it exists on this map, and it's laid back here. You know, there are some mountains that are probably, they're not really causing the glaciers. In fact, they're probably being eroded by them, because you can even have some mountains kind of trying to pop up here, or they're mountains that have been brought from elsewhere. So if you want to do something really cool, you can go through and say, oh, this is actually going to be a chunk of igneous rock that's traveled 500 miles from an Arctic volcano further to the north, but it's just tumbled along because the glaciers are moving, right? The glaciers are spreading, and they're coming down this way, or they're spreading out in different directions, right? This is a tale that you're telling. You may never tell this tale to one of your players, but maybe some of your players can figure it out. Here, we're gonna have our two mountains kind of butt up against each other. Looks like we're kind of playing Asteroids, doesn't it? Especially with this music playing in the background. We got some cool stuff happening. And we can always go back if you don't like what something looks like, but let's fill in our mountain Kersbluies here. Yeah, whatever. There's one that exists. Yeah, we'll make that a part of it too. Haha! I found a leak. Well, I know that one exists. There we go. Alright, so this region was a lot of swamp and forest. And this was, and then there was, here, forest and mountain. And this is where, swamp was. And so a lot of the swamp can also kind of come up this way, as we have this other swamp slash Underdark. Well, it's a forest slash Underdark, as the desalinating mushrooms are getting the water going in. Because this is a crater impact area, it's a low-lying area where water can stagnate rather easily. And so we can represent this. We can have this kind of contained, at least initially, like so. Okay. Now, we probably do have some areas of open grassland. Doesn't have to be a lot. But we can fill this in. And what that's going to do now, and by the way, we can offset this, boom, like so. Now, let's draw in our foresty area. So if this isn't, this is probably kind of cleared to an extent. A lot of the trees might have grown out of the way. There's going to be heavy forest on both sides, right? These are the giant like pine trees and everything that's been caused by the giganteism of I'm sorry, I'm just on a roll saying that of this meteor that kind of rolled along here, and so they've grown up and out. And they're actually acting as a barrier to the swamp that we're making right here. And so we have now a full area of forest. And we can put in some other patches here and there. You know, so there's probably some more traditional forest that's growing up alongside this source of fresh water. And there can also be... Yeah, exactly, Fallon. And all this could lead to an interesting name or the like. You know, so we can have some more... maybe the forest kind of even goes right up to the edge here and surrounds this rock as it's kind of being reclaimed. And we'll take it off the map. Then we can have some... some trees that are kind of getting... maybe they existed before, but they're starting to really get plowed under by this encroaching glacier. There we go. Everything is forest. A soft time limit? I mean, we're talking a geological time limit. Sabado gigante, says Fallon. Or a bosque. Bosque gigante. Whoops. I didn't need that knee anyway. That's going to be our saltwater ocean. Now, to represent that we have this kind of mangrove forest of mushrooms, we can do something like go for our airbrush and use a color that we haven't yet. You know, we can make these like big old toadstools, right? Big, bright, red and yellow mangrove toadstools if we want. And so we can go through and we can spray in, we can spray that in, we can fill that in like so to show like it's a reef. It's almost like a reef. And then we can accent it with our spray brush on either side, right? To show, oh, these are totally the individual mushrooms. I painstakingly drew every mushroom. Ooh, something's happening here. What is going on anyway? Woo. I drew every mushroom by hand. And so now this is really gonna, like this really extends out until we get to like the hard line where there's more mushrooms than salt water. Look at me, I should be a graffiti artist. There we are. Thank you. Oops, all forest. Thank you, Fallon. I very much appreciate clips. Clips are our little mini commercials for who we are and what we do, and it's a great way for people to see the fun that we have. So thank you very much for clipping. The size of the mushrooms in Morrowind, I haven't played Elder Scrolls, so I couldn't tell you. Southwest corner is white. You might want to put a color in there. Oh, hey, thank you, Bubonic. And indeed we shall. Bloop. And bleep. Yeah, probably something that big. Because we rolled a forest and Underdark for that one. And so that's what we had come up with. So there's just almost like this reef of mushrooms or like a mangrove forest that is making like an Underdark-esque filtration of the sea to the shore. So this is, in fact, we could even probably go through. I shouldn't have spray painted just yet, but we can still broadly do this. We can go through and kind of put like a presumption of, all right, so the brackish water is kind of following. It's kind of following here. Maybe there's less mushrooms, so the brackish water is like a lot more prominent. But we can put like this gray-blue brackish water zone here. But by the time that you get here, you're kind of looking out to sea through this forest, but you can drink the water. Now, something that is missing, by the way, and because we have decided this is the color of our fresh water, there's probably going to be a lot of melt from the glacier, and the mountains are also most likely going to be catching a lot of moisture from the air, or they're going to have their own snow melt. And so really what we could use here as well are some rivers and such that flow. And so we can have we can maybe have a melt come down here, and this can even flow into our swamp and helps fuel our swamp and keep it going. If we want, we can really open this up and have this be a delta, like so. Now, what could keep, what could cause water? In fact, maybe water does pour in through here. If this is a low point, and then the star went, it went, and it hit, and then it went zoop, boop, 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 until it rolled here. What could be happening is a very interesting sort of waterfall cascade. Now, this is a low point of the crater. And so this you gotta think of it in this fashion, where the green is touching our swampy purple. That's the low point. So this is maybe even just ground level is a high point. So the swamp isn't necessarily going to spill into here, but we can have some glacial meltwater make its way down through the forest. And what if this becomes a series of like very fresh, pure glacial melt water, but it turns into like a rippling cascade? So it's gonna flow down here, boop. Maybe in this indentation, this forms a bit of a lake, and then the water just ripples down. And if we want something really interesting, we can even say that if we want this to kind of ramp a little bit, how about this? What if the water from here comes down like as this thing was like carving out a path in the ground? What if there's actually like a natural, instead of a waterfall, because it builds up momentum splashing down, the miles and whatever, as it just is building up speed? What if there's a part where the water just like arcs 100 feet from the lip, just as the boulder did so long ago? And so the water kind of arcs up, and then it splashes down into a little receiving pond. And then that receiving pond feeds into a lake. And this lake then is also fed by all the clouds and condensation that this mountain here is catching and collecting. And so we have a bunch of feeder waterfalls Can you imagine all the waterfalls and such that exist here? Whoops. We flooded half the valley. There we go. Remember, the water tells the story of the lay of your land. Because water is very lazy. So this is indicating this is a raised area here. And then this, maybe right here, just at the base, like this is just its own kind of little piddle puddle of glacial meltwater here. It doesn't, it's not a swamp necessarily, but it doesn't, maybe it's constantly evaporating and chilling and recycling or whatever through here. So you have this lake at the base of the glacier. You have a lot of these streams. You have the ocean water, which is being filtered by this like barrier reef of mango mushrooms into brackish water, into fresh water. That in this crater area, this really just forms a very slow swamp, right? Because you have water coming in this way with tides and whatnot. You have a bunch of water that's coming in this way as well. And so the swamp can almost even have, if we really were worried about it, the swamp would probably have a bit of a Coriolis effect? A Coriolis effect, I think. Happy mistakes flood the valley, flood more. Are you a bad enough dude to save your kingdom from the invasion of Skelecrocs? Just wait till the time it comes to populate the ecosystem. Yes. Yes, indeed. One meter per day. And that's presuming that it's making a constant push in this direction. Shukan, with the glacier we were talking about, it has a bunch of holes drilled through it, because our prompt was Arctic Underdark. So it has a bunch of holes being drilled into it by very strong winds, maybe even quasi-magical winds. And so the glaciers are constantly being drilled through, grinding, collapsing, being hollowed out. And so that could be either slowing down or causing a directional shift of the growth. It doesn't mean that there's not glacial growth, and maybe one day the glaciers will actually wipe all this out and go out to the sea. Maybe an ice age in this campaign environment. Maybe we're due for an ice age, and one is in the works, and one is going to be happening. In yesterday's session, we talked about a volcano that was constantly spewing smoke and ash because of we went over plate tectonics last night too, because the two plates were subsiding. They're colliding, going like this, and it was creating like an earthy pimple that was constantly popping as the tectonic plates were kind of curling in on themselves. And so this area may very well have have the effects of this kind of ash fallout over a while, where it's cooler, and it is cooling off, and you do get longer winters, and you get slower, cooler summers. Hey, Sheeps. I wonder if that glacial Underdark is connected underground to the fungal Underdark. Maybe. In all honesty, you know, when we say Underdark for those prompts, Fallon, it doesn't necessarily have to be Underdark as we know it in Faerun. A fungal dark. Oh my gosh, you you get a gold star, Fallon. You know, so here it's Underdark because it's a series of tunnels that the wind is kind of just randomly blowing through and creating through erosion. You know, so which way does the wind go? And we could map this out if we really wanted to. Which way does the wind blow? And maybe here it actually kind of swirls around, right? And it makes a really weird pattern. And then it kind of branches back off, and there's a lot of dead ends, and there's a lot of other caverns and such. We can even put like a cavern here if we want. So it's like a glacier that's constantly fracturing within. And you can have some fun with this if you like, and say that, you know, so maybe there's like a tunnel that kind of comes up here, and it comes up underneath the lake, and so it makes like a constant effervescence, or kind of like a constant kind of a bubbly fart noise, because the wind is always like and Arctic chili bubbles and such are churning out through here. But we can have these almost reaching down like tendrils, because we haven't mapped the entire glacier, but we definitely know that it's there. And as for the Underdark and Forest prompt that was down here, this came about because the Underdark is a series of tubes, a lot like the internet. It's a claustrophobic space. It's a space that is supernatural and supernatural. And if you look at pictures of mangrove forests, and how claustrophobic those can make you feel, how they are islands that just sort of float and exist and make natural tunnels, and it has creatures that lurk below and creatures that lurk above. And so our Underdark reference is just, if we were to plot a course, and we can use pink, I guess, for this. You know, we can do something similar where there's established boat paths, perhaps. Maybe because the mushrooms have been hacked away. The mushrooms have been somehow mitigated, or they've just grown in a particular fashion, right? So here's like our causeway. Here's our causeway through the Underdark. And maybe for large ships, or, I mean, if not for large ships, because we haven't really made a populace that's seafaring, but we can make a rather thick causeway through here as well. And we can just fill that in. Right? A bunch of little ways that we can duck and dodge and weave and dodge again. And you see how we're doing this? We're making like a natural roadmap of sorts. One way is through a desalinating fungal forest, and the other way is where the winds of chaos blow through a glacier to cause it. Maybe there's like a big opening right here, and this is sort of like a big thoroughfare. There we go. Hey Zeta, welcome. Farting glaciers, yes. Yes, indeed. My headcanon's already created a semi-flooded Underdark that's desperately trying to cope with desalination and all sorts of things. And you know what, Lazy Monkey? If we want to take that and maybe we extend the mountains or something happened, maybe there was an underground area that ended up getting impacted and shattered under the weight of this falling star, that's fine as well. Oh, you even said it later. Ever since the roof was cracked by the falling star. See? Great minds think alike. The Great Druid Shroom. Be back in a few. Don't open boxes yet. Shukan, don't worry. Well, we're coming to the end of the segment. I won't open your boxes till you come back. I want to eat the bacon in the middle. I mean, hi all. Hey, Daily. I want to play D&D again. I need to find a new group. I'm doing excellent. Thank you for asking. Also, I finished my new map for Zelda D&D. If you want to share it, you know you're more than welcome to on our Discord. Or if you have a link here, you can post it too, Zeta. Maybe we can have little, like, floating... Oh, wrong color. Maybe we can have, like, floating islands in this crater swamp. Everything's just kind of circling the drain here. And maybe sometimes they even, like, collide. But a part of this, too, swamps aren't just, you know, stagnant lakes. There's a lot of land that exists here. Now, it's very, you know, it's boggy, it's mired down. You know, maybe here there could be a lot more water, and so we're having clumps. In fact, this one maybe even escaped. It's gone out to sea. And it's constantly being pushed back. So things might kind of drift out and then be pushed back against the current of the ocean as it's flowing through this mushroom reef. And then we'll just have one big island that just sort of spins very slowly. Oh, hey, look at that. So everyone, if you click on Zeta's link, there's a pretty cool map there that he's sharing with us. Thank you very much, Zeta. The big crusty nugget in the middle of the bowl. Exactly, Lazy. Whoops. Wrong color. Wrong color. So there's a cavern, and we can spend a lot of time filling this stuff in. A cave only accessible on Mondays. I wonder how the flora and fauna would adapt to a rotating island. Isn't this fun to think about? And again, I'm not putting down things like, you know, Dwarven Mountain Kingdom, Elven Forest Empire, human plains folk, or whatever. But I want to think in the realm of the fantastic. I want us to think of howling winds carving tunnels and faces through a glacier. I want to think about a big old mushroom forest that's constantly desalinating the sea that it butts up against. And when we talked about it, it drops like these gelatinous spores that are also filled with fresh water. And so they're kind of like coconuts. And so all along the shore are going to be a bunch of these these gelatin like capsules that are filled with, I mean, like mushroom stuff, but also fresh water that are acting like coconuts. Now, maybe the mushrooms aren't developing here because the mushrooms need salt, right? They're meant to consume salt to produce it and filter it. So really, this will only ever grow along the coast because maybe it gets too violent, or there has to be certain shallows or something along those lines. So the mushrooms aren't really a problem for the interior. If anything, they're actually causing this interesting coastal lake. They could be. They'd probably be very salty because they're all working to draw the salt out of the water. Tended by grave clerics, yeah, or a circle of spores druids. Redcap. All right, Shukan, you're back. What happens to the salt? The mushroom flesh? Do they crystallize, or is the salt turned into? Maybe the salt just kind of it dries out, and you know how like mushrooms have the mycelium? What are they look like gills underneath the cap, or you can have like puff mushrooms that just like form a big crystal, and the salt just kind of like gets ejected or something, or it drops away. So it's drawing up the salt to get to the water and other nutrients and minerals that are coming on the currents. In fact, the mushrooms might even be feeding on krill or something, and the salt might just like crust over and fall off in clumps. In fact, if a society were to live here, they could probably even harvest salt, which is a very valuable commodity back in Get Ye Flask times. The mushrooms use the salt to spread their spores. Hey, so yeah, maybe crystalline clumps are infused with the spores, and they're sort of like, you know, they're left out to to flow because the salt acts as the seed, because the spore needs salt water for it to grow. And so how about that? They're constantly, I guess, then like impregnating the salt crystals with spores to then just sort of send adrift, and hopefully they'll salinate another place to make more mushrooms. Yep, Get Ye Flask times. Since humanoids are mainly just fleshy bags of salt water, would they be harmful to us? Maybe. Who even says humanoids live in this area? This could be humanoid free. We haven't really put in any races. Or we can take a look at the current races and say how they could have developed. Let's make some Alolan form D&D races, right? Oh yeah, these are fun ideas to bounce around, Lazy Monkey. I love it. I love this kind of creativity. But look at this. We've been talking for a little over an hour, and a lot of that was just table talk. You see how quickly we busted out this map? Now, if you hand this to your players, I would imagine that most of them are going to go, whoa, that's so cool. And we spent like, I don't know, half an hour in MS Paint, and we used the pencil tool, the fill-in tool, and the spray paint tool. And we used all the basic colors that are provided to us in MS Paint. And take a look at what we did. What if the mushrooms are parasitic but don't harm their humanoid hosts? Oh, so yeah, hey Corrida, everyone's a carrier, but it only affects certain species? That could be. An aboleth salt mummy, that would be really cool, Lazy Monkey. A dragonborn with softer leathery scales. Yeah, you do the salt scrub, right? Maybe there are humanoids where to take advantage of the salt, but they're not native. Yeah, that could have been what. That's one thing that I think they were chasing the falling star, kind of like, you know, We Three Kings style. But there are nomads that got lost in the swamp, and others proceeded into the forest, and this is how we have our whisperer, or like our mist folk, our will-o-wisp folk. Where they've been transformed by the area here, and I don't think they can get affected because they're kind of in they're only like semi-corporeal. They're will-o-wisps. They're made of fog in a sense. Salt mushroom facial scrubs, the luxury good. There's Goldie. Yeah, I mean, look, just go to a local spa and say, you know what? rub some pink Himalayan salt on a portobello, and charge a client like $50 to rub the mushroom on the person's face for 15 minutes. You'll make bank, and then I mean, if you really wanted to, you could grill the mushroom later, because just salting a mushroom and grilling it is pretty good. Maybe some olive oil. They could visibly grow on humanoids, but they consume enough water and salt that the mushrooms don't hurt them like natural bacteria. Oh, yeah, so maybe the bacteria here are actually, you have like a little fungal colony inside you. It's an untapped market. Yep, salted mushrooms are good. Granny Smith flavored ice cream is better. Ooh. All right, everyone. I'm going to get up and take maybe like a 5-minute break. And when we come back, let's pop open some boxes for Redcap and Shukan. And we can talk more about the maps. Or if you want, we can get into... we can try and detail a region. Right? So we have this as our guide. But this doesn't mean this is what the map looks like. This is a rough idea. This is just something for us to think about and to use as a reference point. So we can do some more mapping in Paint. We can talk more about features. If we say, well, so there's a lake here, but maybe there's something here, and we can nitpick at this map as well when we finish. All right, so everyone, let's go. 5-minute break, maybe a little bit longer depending. And we'll be back, and let's continue mapping. Isn't this creative? Do you find this empowering?